half times so far since we were 4.5 billion years ago.
Revolution around the galaxy?
Orbit the galaxy. Our sun orbits the galaxy just like all the other stars. And in doing so, it takes us about 230 million years or so to go around the galaxy one time.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, and this includes, I've seen it on the news, a lot of people are saying that the sun is becoming or is in a period of activity that is concerning because of its the CMEs and the coronal mass ejections, how just unstable our grid is compared to what, like if we were to get hit with something like that. Yeah. I believe we were there was an event in the 1800s that saw like anything that had electrical or whatever, like literally burned up. I don't know to what degree. I'm probably misquoting all of this, but
I think you're talking about the Carrington event.
The Carrington event, yes, thank you. But if the Carrington event were to happen today, what would that look like?
Well, in this last solar outburst, we had an event that wasn't as strong as the Carrington event, but it was pretty strong. I had auroras here in Connecticut right over my head, and got video and imagery of them. It's really, really pretty.
In Connecticut?
And down in our Arizona Observatory, our all-sky camera recorded a video overnight of the auroras occurring in Arizona, and they were seen as far south as Mexico and beyond. So it was actually quite a strong event, but it didn't have the destructive power that was expected. And why that was, I don't really know for sure. I didn't actually look at the details about that particular outburst, but I know that the sun, every 11 years, it goes through what they call the sunspot cycle. And it works like this. When the sun's rotating, okay, on its axis, it rotates like the Earth,
right,
revolves on its axis. As it's revolving, it has magnetic field lines coming out of the North Pole going into the South Pole, just like the Earth. But it's a very powerful magnetic field. And as it rotates, what will happen is those magnetic field lines along the equator, okay, end up getting dragged out. So the magnetic field line on the equator would look like this, and then it gets dragged out a little bit, and then down to the South Pole. Then as it keeps going, it gets really dragged out, okay, and then down to the South Pole. And over time, they wind up on themselves. And when they finally disconnect and go to reconnect, that's around every 11 years. And we get these punctures that appear on the solar surface as they appear. They're like dark spots. They're not really punctures. They're just disconnected field lines that are in the process of reconnecting. And it takes time for all that to happen. And we call those solar storms, and those become the darker sunspots. They're only dark because they're just a little bit lower in temperature than the rest of the surface of the sun.
Right.
So if the surface of the sun is 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, they might be 8,500 or so. And so in comparison, they look black. Okay. So that's just because the rest of the sun is so much hotter.
Right.
Yeah. So, but every 11 years, we get the maximum of the sunspot cycle because of the fact that those magnetic field lines have wound up around each other.
So is it safe to say that it's what the sun is doing right now is normal?
Yeah, because we're approaching a solar maximum.
Okay.
And let me find out. I gotta find out here when the next solar maximum is. It's coming soon, and I don't know why I can't think of it.
That's all right.
It's great. Late 2024 and early between
right there.
We're at the beginning of the solar maximum, and it'll be here between 2024 and 2026. So you see, there's time between all these things. It's not like Thursday night at 8 p.m. boom, because that's what people say. That people said, well, with geomagnetic pole shift, okay, the geomagnetic reversals as we call it, okay, in the real world, geomagnetic reversals are where the Earth's magnetic field, all right, migrates. Like right now, ever since I put telescopes out into the desert, the North Pole has changed position for me. And it's a very gradual thing. It happens over thousands of years. It doesn't happen overnight like the people with their degrees they get on Google will tell you. Okay? They get these immediate sunspot cycles, and we're going to have this pole shift, and the Earth's going to flip upside down.
Yeah.
My God. That's got to be the worst possible misunderstanding of science I've ever heard in my life. But I'm very nice to people because I can understand that if somebody doesn't know and they ask me that question, they're not the ones that thought of it. They usually watch the video where some other person with no scientific background said it. And of course, what are they going to do? They don't know. So I don't think they're stupid. I just think that they're the victim of the Google degree, person,
And that is why I like talking to people like you, because for some of the stuff that I hear, it's just like in this world of UFOs, cover-ups, conspiracies, like it's honestly, a lot of it is, I want to believe, a lot of it is. And I find myself a lot coming up against that and saying, like, we need skeptics. We need people that will ground us in a way. So that's why I welcome skeptics and skeptical people to this topic. But, I believe that we're being visited. But maybe, sometimes like there's lines that I just like with the abduction phenomena and going further, saying it's our own military. There are lines I draw in the sand where I won't say them out loud because I don't want to, offend any of my audience. But there's a degree to which I believe, and it's.
Why don't you just Neil deGrasse Tyson? Okay, he sent me a LinkedIn request, and I accepted it, and he started following what I'm doing. And when I talk to other people, and I do talks like this, like yours right here, people find out what I've been doing, and they hear about the concepts that I'm talking about. And so what happens is they end up naturally percolating out into the ether out there, so to speak. And folks like Neil deGrasse Tyson hear this. Now, how do I know this? I know this because I've been told so. Okay. Now, what happened was, if you talked to Neil deGrasse Tyson 10 years ago and asked him about the prospect of alien life and here on Earth, he'd say, I see absolutely no evidence of life on Earth. That's ridiculous. Let's focus on the things we need to worry about now, like educating our children, which he's absolutely right about.
He is right. He is.
I'm on STEM boards. I understand that. Okay. and the thing is, and then he starts following what people like me and other people are doing. And guess what? Now he's asked that same question. Do you think alien life could be here? What does he say now? He says, well, I need more evidence. I need more data.
I need more data.
Okay. Thank you. That's all we're asking for, is the call for more data. I want that. Everybody wants that. Now, I've had experiences I can't explain. Okay. I had 3 nights of terror in an old house. I had to move out of it because of this. And something came into my room and shoved something up my sinus. I was wide awake for this, couldn't do anything about it. And the next day I couldn't breathe out of this sinus, and it was that way for 2 years. And I felt like something had been lodged up there. And the following morning, after 3 nights of this terrifying ordeal, I simply got up and took a shower and went to work. As if it didn't happen. I couldn't breathe out of this, and I just was, well, that's nothing.
It's allergies.
It's allergies. It's nothing.
You try to rationalize it.
Well, something made me feel like I didn't have to worry about it. So I didn't. So 2 years later, I went to the doctor and he looked up there and said, holy, and he said the word. He goes, you've got something huge up there. And he actually was able to extract it in the office. And it was the size of my two thumbs together like this. Okay. It was
What?
big. It came out of here. And as I always say, I felt like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall. Get it out, pull it out. Yeah. Pull it. That's what it felt like to me. So my first comment to him was, can I have that? And he says, no, we're going to send it down to pathology. And I said, oh, well, can you have him check the middle of it? Because I'm wondering if maybe they might find a foreign object in there. And he went, oh, you mean like a metal splinter that a machinist might get? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure, we can do that. Why do you ask? And I told him the story about the 3 nights of terror, blah, 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 and something doing this. And he laughed. He goes, I'm sure it's not aliens. I go, no, I totally agree. I'm sure that was just a dream, which I wasn't sure. And he says, call me in a week. I'll tell you if what it is. And he says, I'm sure it's benign, but let's just call me in a week. Okay. I call him in a week. Hi, it's Marc D'Antonio. Oh, hold on. Doctor has to talk to you. I went, oh, no, my head's going to fall off. It's like head cancer. It's my whole head.
Oh, my God. Yeah, like the worst thoughts.
Yeah. When does a doctor get on the phone? Well, he gets on the phone right away, and he says, oh, hi, Mr. D'Antonio. I just want to let you know that it's probably benign. Nothing to worry about, okay? I went, oh, so you don't have the results? Well, okay. He goes, this is the first, exact words, this is the first time this has happened in my, I forget how many years, I think he said 35 years of my office practice. He goes, but we sent it down to pathology and they can't find it now. Oh. And so I just said, oh, okay, no worries. So it's benign? Yep, no problem, benign. Okay, great. So I get off the phone thinking, well, that's weird. How would that happen? If it was something that was taken or whatever, how would they know? I mean, I don't get it. So a couple of years later, I went to him for another thing. And this time I put on my intake sheet, the sheet that says, why are you here today? What's the problem with you? And I put on there my occupation. I said, I do special projects for the Navy. All right. Well, that's kind of a buzzword. And if you're doing special projects, it means that you're doing things with a clearance. And I had a very high clearance for years, for decades. And so I went and put that on there, and because you don't talk about that in public, right?
Right.
And since I'm now out of the program, I can say I had it. That's not a big deal. Right. Okay. And so he walks in and he looks at the sheet, goes, oh, special projects for the Navy, huh? I go, yeah. I said, I was doing, and I told him some of the stuff I did that I could mention in the classified world that was now public. And he said, huh. And then he did something I never saw a doctor do ever. He sat up on the exam table next to me. And I'm like, that's awkward. Whoa. I'm moving away. Like, that's awkward. And he crosses his legs and he's looking out the window, swinging his legs like we're two kids on a cliff overlooking a pond. Okay. And he goes, I just gave up my top secret clearance this year. I went, oh, what?
Holy shit.
And I said, oh, you're operating on like top secret nasal polyps or something? and he laughed too. And he says, no. He goes, I wasn't always a surgeon, he said. And he got serious. And he told me about a project he was on with the Navy where they cleared 1,600 miles of area around their ship in all directions. It was actually a little atoll out in the Pacific. And they launched a rocket into space. There was a nuclear weapon. And it took down an enemy satellite with an EMP pulse. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. He goes, yeah, I've been doing consulting with them for a long time. Still, he says, well, up until recently, I've left the programs. Wow. So I looked back and I figured out what program he was on. It was a project called Project Starfish. And Project Starfish was a launch of a nuclear weapon into the ionosphere to test how nuclear weapons affect the ions in the upper atmosphere. Yeah, you betcha that's what they were doing. It turns out that they wanted to see the effects on enemy satellites.
What?
And they were successful. Yeah. So you can look it up, Project Starfish.
Oh, I know all about it.
There's a famous photograph taken of Honolulu, thousands of miles away from this thing. And where the blast took place,